Okay. H is deliberation and possible action to approve an agreement for the purchase of attendance credits as provided by Texas Education Code Chapter 41, Subchapter D. Do I have a motion? Dr. Temple.
I move that we approve an agreement for the purchase of attendance credits as provided by Texas Education Code Chapter 41, Subchapter D, as presented.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Mr. O'Neill seconds. Discussion.
Would
you like to start? Yes, you start and we'll add.
This is a really neat part of the Texas Education Code, Chapter 41, is the code entitled Equalization of Wealth, which means this is the opportunity for school districts that have additional wealth, according to the definition at the state, to share their wealth with districts or the state. And the first step in this I guess the second step requires an election, and the first step is to approve an agreement for the purchase of attendance credits. This is what we've been advised to do, and then the next item has to do with calling for an election. So this is a requirement that the state of Texas, I would say in the Texas Supreme Court, decided actually in the early 90s, the first time, that there would be equalization of wealth in Texas. And in Galveston hit the point, Galveston ISD hit the point of equalization of wealth, hit that status in 2006. And we held an election at that time, and once again we can talk about the election later, but this is a required step that is not optional. Over 300 districts in Texas have this wonderful provision enacted with them and get an opportunity to share their wealth. Whether they have wealthy students, middle class students, poor students, that is irrelevant to the question.
This is the single most important thing that we have discussed since I've been on the board. And it doesn't sound like it when you read the sentence. And so over the next 6 weeks, you are going to hear from us and hopefully from the community members that understand how important this election is and how important it is that we pass this election. Every school district in the state of Texas was faced with decisions if they were Chapter 41. And so we're going to use words, I'm going to use words that I heard more when I wasn't on the board, because this is not how this reads. This is about Robin Hood. This is about schools who have lots of property tax having to give money to schools that don't. Now, whether we like that idea or not, that's the current law in the state of Texas. And you either give money and property away, or you keep your money and property and you purchase these attendance credits. And I used a drawing of a pie chart where you have a big stack of property or money and you have X number of students, and they have to be equal. And so you can either get rid of your property to come down to your students, or you can get more students. And if you can't get more students by getting live bodies, you buy attendance credits to make artificial students so you have the same numbers. If we don't pass this election, then Austin gets to decide how they want to do this. That means that they can take some of or all of parts of Galveston and Bolivar to make up the $1 billion difference between the property taxes that we get and the property taxes they say that we have to give away. Now, we can argue whether we think the system's fair or not, but until that's changed, the fact is we either decide as voters that we want to purchase attendant credits, or after the election's done, if we decide we don't, then Austin can come in and take the West End past 61st Street and decide that they're not going to be part of GISD anymore and they're going to be part of another school district. Or they can take individual buildings that generate property tax and make them not part of our property tax roll anymore. You need to tell your friends and neighbors and people with kids or without kids. This isn't about taxing you a penny more. This is about taking the money we already have and purchasing attendance credits so we can keep our property. Because if we lose property, your taxes will actually go up, because we will still have to pay the bond debt, but we will have to do it with less property being taxed, so therefore the tax rate will go up. So saying no in this election will raise your taxes if Austin moves the property, which is what they will do. This is not an if. They will take either property, because you will have said we can't buy attendance credits. And if it seems like I'm beating a horse, then I am, because previous school boards 7 years ago tried to put this on the ballot, and for one reason or another, voters didn't understand it and voted no. And since that time, the TA has been knocking on the door and has said, you have this election, either August or September, and you make a decision or you can't set your tax rate, and we're going to take your property or your money. It's the plainest way that I can tell you, so I can think of no more important issue. So you're going to be tired of hearing from us over the next 6 weeks, because this affects everyone, whether you have little bitty kids or teenagers, or you haven't had kids in your house either ever or in 40 years, because we will lose property and your taxes will go up if we don't pass this election. I'm going to open it up to any other board members if they have anything else they would like to add.
Yeah.
Mr. O'Neill.
Well, from a historical perspective, I don't think the community has understood the magnitude or the gravity of the situation. And here, at this particular time, I don't believe we understand the urgency of the situation, in the sense that since that election, when things didn't go as they should, that we've tried every avenue we can to make sure we maintain the integrity of the district and abide by what that vote had said. But it's come to the final hour where the state is saying you're either going to give up the money or the property for this. It's come to that point. So there's a sense of urgency that we'll have to get this information out so that people will really understand that there is no tomorrow with this. We have to get it done. And the fact that once property is taken from your district, it's not like you can change it the next year. This would be a permanent or a long-term situation. In either case scenario, even if it's permanent or long-term, the financial duress that is going to place on the citizens of this city, it's going to be detrimental. So we have to make sure that we really understand what's going on and understand that this is the 9th hour. We have done more than due diligence to try every avenue we can to find another alternative, but this is what the state is saying, and this is what they're saying now, and this is what we have to do now.
Dr. Tim.
Just a couple things. One, I think it's less about the voters, them not getting it, and more about us needing to convey the message in a way that is user-friendly And I think Dr. Hayes' pie chart is a good example of that. I think that helped me understand it quite a bit more. So I think we have to do a better job of getting the word out there and getting it in a more user-friendly format. The other thing I just going to beat the same dead horse that Dr. Hay beat already, and just want to emphasize that purchasing attendance credits will not cost anyone, will not raise taxes at all. It's money that we have to pay it, and in fact, voting against this measure would increase taxes because it will take property off of our tax rolls, and so we would have to make up that difference somewhere. Thank you.
Any other? Oh, yes.
I want to think positive thoughts about the election and think about us winning the election. It will be they will be the only item on the agenda. It will take, it is a one-sentence election, which we can discuss here, purchase of attendance credits. And so really the last election, in which was actually pretty close, was a gubernatorial election, and there were 10,000 votes, and probably some people didn't really, they were voting for governor, and they walked in and maybe they didn't know too much about what they were voting on. And if you just read it, it doesn't sound like, do you want to give money away to the state? No. Do you want to give money away to other districts? No. I mean, so that sounds like a logical thing to do, but it does have the consequences. The one thing that is in our area, because we're on the coast, most districts in our area, High Island, Columbia, Brazosport, Lamarck, Texas City, those districts which are also near us, those districts are all Chapter 41. And so there is a district that is not Chapter 41, and that would be the most likely group to be annexed or de-annexed to, and that district's tax rate is $1.54, and our tax rate is $1.16.5. So the lucky taxpayers who get de-annexed to the other district are going to see a significant tax increase. And once again, keep in mind that we have $5 billion worth of property value on Galveston and Galveston ISD, $5 billion. That is taxable. We have to give up $1 billion of taxable value. And when we do that, our bonded indebtedness goes up. I mean, not our bonded indebtedness, but our bond payment goes up. So our bond payment is $6 million a year, and so in order to collect $6 million off $1 billion less, then the tax rate will go up. And so that's there's I think those key reasons that everybody has articulated. Number one, do we as Galvestonians want to decide this, or do we want to delegate it to Austin? If you want Austin to decide, then vote no. If you want to decide, then vote yes. Do you want your tax rate to stay the same or go up? If you want your tax rate to go up so that to make a building payment, which we don't have a bunch of new buildings, and then vote no if you want your tax rate to go up. And I don't think people want their tax rate to go up. And the other thing is that we're in our own category. There are Chapter 42 schools, which are the poor schools, quote. There are Chapter 41 schools. Every other school district in the state, they got this nice notice, just like we got. We got ours in 2006. Some got it this year. Some got it before that. Every school district in the state that got this wonderful notice that says, welcome to Chapter 41. You get to equalize your wealth. All of them had this same election, and every one of them passed it. Every one. So Galveston is the only district in the state that did not pass this election. So actually, they created something called the Galveston Offset, in which allowed Galveston to not pay, but to not receive state money. So we get X amount of dollars of state money, and we owe X amount of dollars of equalization of wealth. As long as the state money we got was more than the equalization of wealth, it worked. And that worked in 2006, 2007, 8, 9, 10. In 2010-11, it no longer worked. The state money that we were given did not exceed the equalization of wealth. The equalization of wealth was greater, and that has increased in 2011-12 and increased in 2012-13. So the state has said no more. You, Galveston, are part of the state of Texas. Everybody else is doing this. You're going to do it too. And if not, then there are other provisions of the law, which was passed. De-annexation of property is one. Then we'll just de-annex your property. And you won't be a wealthy school anymore. We'll take enough property so that you will not be wealthy. And we're going to get to pick it. We're going to select the property. So
we're meaning Austin, not
Austin.
we're meaning Galveston.
Yes, Galveston will not be the one doing the selection. So that's kind of where we are, and I just think we need to, ask the right questions here and keep our own options. So that would be, and hopefully the early voting, and we'll talk about all that, I guess, at the next item. But we have a plan.
If we're done with discussion, I'm going to take a vote on the proceeding with the purchase of the attendance credits. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. And that leads into I, which is to seek a special election and voter approval to purchase said attendance on August 27th, 2013, a Tuesday. Yes, Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, I move that the Board of Trustees approve a special election to seek voter approval to purchase attendance credits as provided by Texas Education Code, Chapter 41, Subchapter D, to be conducted on August the 27th, 2013.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. For discussion, the plan would be to have the election on Tuesday, August 27th. It's the second day of returning of school. There would be early voting for 2 weeks prior in Galveston, and we do not run an election, the county runs an election. And we requested early voting in Bolivar, and we're told that the county can supply an early voting, but one day. August 12th would be the early voting day in Bolivar.
The very first day would be the day that could be provided.
So then besides the early voting, then we would propose four voting locations on the island and one on the peninsula. They would be Weiss Intermediate, Alamo, the administration building, and the county courthouse. These are all locations where voting takes place already. And then the one on the peninsula would be
At Fagerty Community Center in Crystal Bay. Yeah, Faggart Community System.
Okay. And because this is run by the county, on election day, you would have to vote in the location that you resided in. You could not go to whichever location you happen to be closest to or work next to. And we would post the locations, which I don't need to read at this point. Early voting on the island would happen at the administration building during its regular hours.
Which are 7:30 to 4:30 every Monday. It'd be August 12th, the week of August 12th, and Barb, what's the next week? Start with
The 19th.
August 19th through 23rd. So for 2 weeks prior to the election, 2 full weeks, 7:30 to 4:30, early voting in this room, school board room.
And as required by law, we would also have mail-in ballots as well. And so it would be those 5 voting locations, voting in your area. And so that's what we're proposing. Any other discussion? Mr. O'Neill?
Just the fact that there is a sense of urgency with this. As most know, the budgets have to be dealt with by August the 31st. And we've come to, as I stated earlier, we've come to the 9th hour where we have to get something done and done quickly, or else there will be action taken against this district as we make preparations for the beginning of our school year with our finances. So it's very important, and it is imperative that we get this done and get this word out so that the citizens of this city know what's going on and the situation that we are in as a school district.
Other discussion? Okay. Then, all in favor of the motion to have the election on August 27th as presented, raise your right hand. Okay, that is unanimous, and we will have a special election on August 27th on Tuesday.